This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. I hope you had an absolutely wonderful, wonderful weekend. I know I did until just juvenile tendencies contaminated our evening. A couple of things I will get into today. If I sound a bit depressed, if you watched my Yankees over the last 4 days, you'd be depressed too. They got swept by the Boston Red Sox. They gave up a 4-1 lead in the ninth inning. Yes, last night. Aroldis Chapman couldn't hold on to that lead. I'm hoping to have Karl Ravech, our very own Karl Ravech, on the phone, who spoke to Yankees manager, rookie manager Aaron Boone after the game, I believe. I'm looking at Brian Cashman, not Aaron Boone. I'll explain why as the show progresses a little bit later, but I want to reiterate what I said Friday. American League East race is over. New York Yankees are down 9.5 games. They ain't making that up against these Boston Red Sox. Not with J.D. Martinez. Not with Mookie Betts. Not with Benintendi. Not with all of these guys. Not with Chris Sale ultimately coming off the DL. Not with Porcello on the crew. It's not happening. Boston Red Sox will win the AL East. Yankees ain't happening. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll definitely get into the Houston Astros. Roberto Osuna, he is back despite being suspended for 75 games, committing domestic violence. He has been back and embraced by the Houston Astros. I'll express my sentiments about that as the show progresses today, so you can anticipate that that is definitely something that is going to happen. Stay tuned for that. And, of course, the Hall of Fame. T.O. gave a great speech. Ray Lewis gave a great speech. Randy Moss turned it out. Loved the tie that he was wearing, highlighting victims of police brutality or brutality on the part of some police officers, led by Trayvon Martin and others. He had those names etched on his tie, pretty much showing his social consciousness. Appreciate that. T.O. speaking about the media, that definitely is worth discussing. Because I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. The media does not look good today because of T.O.'s speech. We do not look good. The Fourth Estate does not look good. I'll explain why as the show progresses today. But needless to say, we all understand what's going to lead the show. LeBron James, called out by the President of the United States of America. President highlighted, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but the exact tweet in front of me, but I believe he said that LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon from CNN. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. I like Mike. You know, folks out there who support Trump, first of all, let me say this. Anybody who denigrates constituencies, the constituency of Donald Trump, based on his politics, is wrong. As shocking as that may be to hear from me, I'm going to say it again. It's wrong. Here is why. This is America. Everyone's entitled to feel what they feel about their politics. If you know anything about traditional voters in the United States of America, they're usually one-dimensional. By that meaning one issue dominates the proceedings. There are some people who pay attention to pro-choice or anti-abortion. Nothing else matters. There are others who pay attention to the economy. Nothing else matters. There are others who pay attention to immigration. Nothing else matters. There are others who pay attention to their rights, the Second Amendment, gun laws. Nothing else matters. Whether you agree or disagree with them, there is no substance, or no justification, rather, to excoriate folks when historically as a nation on both sides of the aisle, people have tended to focus on the one issue that they care about to decide who they vote for. That's the way it goes. You got to put on your big boy and big girl pants and just accept that. But that's not what we're talking about here when it comes to this president. What he said about Don Lemon, a graduate of LSU, an Emmy Award winner, by the way, is wrong. You can disagree with Don Lemon and his politics, but the bottom line is he's not stupid. He's not dumb. And more importantly, it's absolutely juvenile and childish and idiotic for the president of the United States to be engaging in such bantering against folks. Number one. Number two, to insult LeBron James the week that he's opening a school through his I Promise initiative that's going to benefit thousands of kids and their families, thousands of the underprivileged, where he's pumped in over $40 million to this project, which is supposed to be everything that a president would applaud. It just makes Trump look that much worse. It truly, truly does. And like I've said before, it's not about politics. It's not about what side of the aisle he's on. It's about him as an individual. And did it come across as racially insensitive? You're damn right it did. That's not to say, as my man Will Cain pointed out on First Take today, accurately, I might add, black folks ain't the only ones that Trump has said had a low IQ. He said that about S.E. Cupp, a political analyst who I like very much. He said that about Ana Navarro. He said it about a host of other people who don't happen to be black that are on air as pundits. He said something along those lines about Bill Maher. Real Time and HBO, which is real time rather, on HBO, which is much watched television on Friday nights, as far as I'm concerned. If I'm watching TV on a Friday night, I'm watching Bill Maher. So let me be very clear about that. The president hasn't just said this about black folk. But as I pointed out to my brother Will Cain today on First Take, you do have a responsibility to embrace and have a heightened level of sensitivity as to how things are going to percolate, how it's going to resonate as it pertains to particular communities. You sit up there and you want to look at a white person and you want to call them a redneck. I got news for you. It's going to resonate far more profoundly for somebody in the South, wouldn't you say? It has a different connotation. You want to come up with a derogatory name to call somebody in the Jewish community, but you say the same thing about white folks or black folks, it's going to resonate differently in the Jewish community. Historically, as a nation, when people have tried to denigrate black folk specifically, they've attacked our IQ. And again, it's not the same. Even though Trump may have said the same thing. He said Robert De Niro had a very low IQ. He said he's received too many shots to the head by real boxers in movies. Quote, I watched him last night and truly believe he may be punch drunk. This is what the president said about Robert De Niro. About Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC, he said, I heard poorly rated Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. Then how come, something about low IQ? He said, how come low IQ Crazy Mika along with Psycho Joe came? Crazy Joe Scarborough and Dumb as a Rock Mika are not bad people, but their low-rated show is dominated by their NBC bosses. Too bad. So again, he hasn't just said this about black folks. But he challenged the IQ of Maxine Waters, renowned congresswoman for many, many years. What about what he said about President Barack Obama in April of 2011? Quote, I heard he was a terrible student. The former president for the Harvard Law School Review. I heard he was a terrible student. Terrible. How does a bad student go to Columbia and then Harvard? I'm thinking about it. I'm certainly looking into it. Let him show his records. Now, this is after the man spearheaded the birther movement to try and delegitimize the presidency of the United States of America, yet he's taking shots at everybody else who's trying to delegitimize him over the Russia collusion scandal. But that's all you did to Barack Obama when he was the president. And, of course, he attacks LeBron James. It's hard to put into words what you really, really want to say. I can tell you that in this age, in this world that we live in, when you consider how smearing or trying to denigrate a black critic as having a low IQ could be perceived as an effective way of delegitimizing one's political base, when you consider the ripple effects that it transfers, because after all, there's a gubernatorial race going on in Georgia, for example, with Stacey Abrams going against this guy, Brian Kemp. He's not the first politician that went on the air with a gun, but he did, pointing it at a teenager. Obviously an advocate for Second Amendment rights, a proponent of things that espouse the NRA, which isn't a crime. And the whole belief and the whole aim of the campaign is to say, hey, this is Georgia. We ain't necessarily about liberalism here. Now, that may not happen to be true, but nevertheless, that appears to be the campaign. It's something that's deemed comfortable to do in the climate that we're living in. Now, you might say, what the hell does this have to do with sports? It has everything to do with sports. Because the president of the United States is usually trying to attack an athlete. And oh, by the way, when doing so, how does he go about doing it? Or why does he go about doing it? Same week when we talk about collusion, he talks about LeBron James and Don Lemon. He did this before when it came to the NFL owners and the NFL players. Oh, by the way, he talked about the NFL players needing to stand hand on heart for the national anthem, but didn't say anything when Jerry Jones, his buddy, didn't do it. Over a week ago. So clearly there's some inconsistencies, and it's all contingent upon who he likes and doesn't like, et cetera, or who's supportive of him and who critiques him. Boy, would I love to sit down with this man and have a conversation on air. Never happens. Never happens, even though I interviewed him years ago. But it's just sad. And for those of you out there, Stephen A., you're crossing the line. Listen, man, let me be very, very clear. I'm not attacking the man's politics. I have my own beliefs about tariffs. I happen to agree with John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, who said farmers they don't want welfare, they want trade. I happen to agree with Republicans who are concerned about his tariff war with China. Although I think illegal immigration needs to be addressed, I damn sure ain't a proponent of a wall. But those are political things I'm not trying to get into. I'm only bringing that up to say, despite how wrong I believe our president is in terms of his juvenile tendencies with his behavior, that doesn't mean we get a pass. Whether it's LeBron or any other athlete or any pundit or anybody else, if you're going to speak up about this man, know what you're talking about and articulate it. I have no problem with LeBron James saying our president is divisive. What I have a problem with is his lack of examples. Give them to us. Show the world you know. Because all of us doesn't have tens of millions of followers on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So if you're going to speak, let us know you know. Let him know you know. Have him concerned about you bringing up collusion and tariffs and trade and beyond. Show him what you know. Because if you don't, You got a constituency out there that's going to sit up there and say, we don't want to hear anything about race. He said the same thing about white folks. He's saying about the black folks. So what's the problem? Once again, we're playing the race card, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? They'll have a point if you don't bring up any facts. They have a point. And for the record, I want to state something here. Even though the New Yorker and the article that they wrote on me, as far as I was concerned, was very impressive and very accurate for the most part, it had me as a Trump supporter. I am nothing like that at all. I do not support our president. I never have. I drove 6 hours to make sure I voted against him. And I wasn't that high on Hillary, but I'll be damned if I wasn't high on her than him. I'm not saying any of this to get into politics. I'm saying this to say to you, I'm not about the politics. I'm about behavior. Why am I about behavior? It's not just because he's the president of the United States. It's because I inherently have a problem with a nation that is quick to hold an athlete, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. You will hold an athlete in their 20s more accountable than you will hold a 72-year-old man who happens to be the president of the United States. That has the power to influence your taxes being raised. That has the power to sit up there and tell an organization it's all right to separate kids from their parents. That has the power to ultimately provoke a wall being built. That has the power to compromise trade. That has the power to worry farmers across this nation. That has the power to affect the auto industry. That has the power to affect Wall Street with the slippage of his tongue. I got a problem that we are sitting here in this world right now in 2018, and we will call LeBron James out for passing gas, but let a 72-year-old man slide who happens to be the president of the United States of America. I think it's appalling. I think it's shameful. And I think it's on us more so than it's on him. Let me be very, very clear on what I think as it pertains to this president. People who are quick to bring up, oh, he's racist or whatever the case may be, I think you're missing it. I think if this president could turn around and somehow, some way he was convinced that championing black causes and not building a wall and not bringing up tariffs with trade and all of this other stuff, he went the complete opposite direction. If this man was convinced it would get him more votes, win him another election, and literally benefit Trump Enterprises, he'd do it yesterday. I don't view him like, oh my goodness, it's just as it racial necessity. You're damn right. I remember what happens in Charlottesville. I remember his words. I remember his words in delegitimizing our president or trying to and questioning his citizenship in the United States of America. I remember all of it. And even though I wouldn't use the profanity, I agree with my brother D.L. Hughley on that. But I want to be very, very clear. I don't think that's his ultimate motivation. His ultimate motivation is to get what he wants, and any way to get what he wants, he'll do it. It's not principled. It's whatever works for him. My point is when we going to do what works for us, not just as individuals, but as a nation. How can we sit here with a straight face and be quick? Do you know how many athletes we call out for everything? And oh, by the way, not just athletes, coaches. Urban Meyer is about to lose his job because he didn't get rid of a guy that was involved in a domestic violence case. And the guy denied that he ever put his hands on his wife. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know. Urban Meyer's on the verge of potentially losing his job because of that. Do you know that Jim Tressel lost his job at Ohio State? Because when Terrell Pryor went, some tattoo parlor or whatever, Tressel tried to hide it. That's why he lost his job. But this man, who is the president, does whatever he wants when he wants. This is before he was elected, mind you. If you remember his speech to announce the presidency, he offended 50% of the population in the first 10 minutes and gained followers and support. Didn't lose anything. But if that were an athlete, we'd excoriate them. What does it say about you as American citizens that you would hold 19, 21, 23, 25, 28, 30, 33-year-old athletes who bounce basketballs and catch touchdowns and smack home runs to a higher standard than the president of the United States? That's the problem. That's where our problem lies. That's why it's sports related. So you damn idiots out there who are quick to sit up there and say, why are we talking about politics or whatever the case may be? It's because you have allowed politics to infiltrate sports. Because of the manner in which you're willing to hold athletes accountable for something you don't even hold your damn politicians accountable for. You have no leg to stand on. You have no right to tell somebody to be quiet. You have no right to tell somebody to change the subject and change the narrative. You don't do it with them. You sit up there and you hold T.O. accountable because he don't show up to Canton, Ohio. You treating him like he committed a crime. Randy Moss once got in trouble with the law. Y'all held him more accountable for fake mooning on the goalpost in Green Bay than Lambeau Field than you did anywhere else. The inconsistencies, the hypocrisy, the unfairness, and the outright stupidity. No athlete affects your life. You can simply turn off the tube and the radio and not watch them. You never have to listen to Donald Trump. You never have to see him. You never have to speak to speak about him or to him. And still, he profoundly affects your life every day. But you give him a pass. And there'll be people out there that'll debate how wrong the athlete LeBron James is in all of this. And then you wonder why people get upset. And for those of you who wish that I or anybody else would drop this subject, I have one request. Stop being some damn cowards. Man up, woman up. Own this. This is an indictment against us. The hell with politics. I don't want to talk politics. I want to talk sports, but this is sports. When will athletes be given a fair shake and treated like what they are, just athletes? When will that happen? I'm going to get into Roberto Osuna next. Got suspended 75 games. 75 games. Where's the uproar? I'm not talking about from Major League Baseball. I'm not talking about from the media. I'm talking about from the public. 75 games domestic violence. You barely hear anything. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Straight talk, wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Back with more in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will be, quote, as happy as a clam, unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately verify clams even experience the complex human emotional state known as happiness. As an invertebrate mollusk living half submerged on the ocean floor, with no arms, legs, or wireless access, what's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today. Pronounced regionally as chowder. Chowder. Oh, that's so fun to say. What were we talking about again?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm not going to hide from this reality. I do not own ESPN. I have no shame in telling you I don't get to do what I want, when I want, how I want. Even if I could, I'm not going to engage in name calling towards the president and all that stuff. It's irresponsible. I'm not doing that. Number one. Number two, we're a sports network, so I'm not about to get into the minutia of politics. And I'm not going to allow the callers to do that either. That's not where we're going here. That's not what I'm trying to provoke here. I'm not going to allow that. Let me be very, very clear about that. That's not going to happen. And the biggest reason is because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not qualified to dispute a whole bunch of things with folks. I'm not qualified. As much as I may know about politics, there's too many people that are far more knowledgeable, they're experts, they're aficionados on this than I could ever hope to be. We're not engaging in that. I'm getting on it because you're the president and you want to get at an athlete like that. I think it's beneath the office of the presidency, period. I also think that LeBron was wrong to call him a bum when he did. Now, obviously, that emanated from a multitude of things, not just the president saying the Golden State Warriors were no longer invited to the White House when LeBron accurately pointed out they weren't coming anyway because of you. It was an honor to come to the White House until you got there, all of that stuff. But again, we can point out the differences without engaging in the name calling. Because ultimately, it feeds something different. And I think anybody that's going to speak out against him needs to be specific about what they're speaking out about. It's not enough to say he's divisive. What do you mean? In his eyes, he's bringing 62 plus million people together, which is enough to get him reelected, potentially. So what do you mean? There's no political candidate in history that got every vote. There's always millions who vote against you. That's just the way it goes. But my biggest issue for bringing up the topic is simply this. I think it's shameful that an athlete is held more accountable than politicians. Because an athlete at the end of the day does not affect our lives. Politicians do every day. The decisions that they make and how they come to those decisions directly impact the lives of over 350 million Americans. You want an athlete not to have an impact in your life? Change the channel. Don't patronize their games, their product, or whatever. That's it. But there's nothing you can do with politicians in office. You're essentially at their mercy until they leave, whether of their own volition or if you push them out. So to me, it's absolutely asinine to hold athletes to a same standard we're holding the president of the United States. It's very simple. Very simple to me. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. But that's not the only place where the American people are dropping the ball. For those of you who may not have been aware, there's a relief pitcher by the name of Roberto Osuna. He used to play for the Toronto Blue Jays in Canada, obviously a member of Major League Baseball. But he ultimately was acquired by the Houston Astros, not before serving his 75-game suspension following domestic violence charges. Owner Jim Crane and general manager Jeff Luhnow, is that how you pronounce it? Luhnow? Met with the team separately on Saturday. They wanted to go over the background checks they conducted on Osuna and explain why they felt comfortable bringing him in. Luhnow came away believing his players were appreciative of the chat. This is according to general manager Jeff Luhnow. Quote, "It was not an easy decision for us to come to as an organization. But based on all the information that we have, we believe Roberto deserves a second chance. Jim and I both communicated that to the players. Each player is going to have to make up his own mind over time. I believe Roberto has gotten off to a good start. He met everybody today, and I think that our clubhouse is going to give him a chance to be a part of this team to help us win." Luhnow added that he is, quote, "not worried," end quote, about the Osuna acquisition, quote, "fragmenting the clubhouse," end quote. A sentiment his players and his manager were adamant on throughout the weekend. Now, if you remember, Verlander, one of the star pitchers, is an adamant advocate against domestic violence. He don't play. Along with some members of the Houston Astros as well. I want to state for the record, I have no problem with the Houston Astros. I have no problem with the players. Here's who I have a problem with. The public. Where's the uproar? Where's the outcry? If this were an NFL player or an NBA player, we'd be saying they should be gone. They should be banned. They shouldn't be in the league again. That's what we would be saying. Am I right, Nuno, John, Kat? Am I missing something? Am I missing something? You see, you want to get on Stephen A. Oh, there this guy is again. I mean, this guy is something else. I really don't know that. Really? Really? I'm making this up? I'm making this up. Baseball suspension is more than apropos. The Houston Astros deciding to give him a second chance after conducting an investigation, et cetera, et cetera. I understand it. What about the public? What about the public? What if a decision had not been made? Let's ask this hypothetical question. What if a decision had not been made? And Michael Kay for ESPN New York, or John Ireland for 710 ESPN LA, or one of our colleagues in Houston or Atlanta or DC or anywhere else, or God forbid me. What if I had come out before all of this went down, y'all? John, look at me when I'm talking to you, damn it. Winthrop, here's the deal. What if I had come out, Kat, the lovely Catherine Pastor? What if I had come out, Nuno? It's like this. I think he deserves a second chance. Life's full of second chances. What if y'all would be calling for me to be gone? But this dude comes back, and the only reason we heard anything is because ESPN had the cameras in front of him. Where's the public? Where's the outcry? Where's the outrage? Where is it? If this were a football or a basketball player, y'all would be all up in there, you know what? Why the pass for a Major League Baseball player? Can somebody explain that to me? I'm not going to even give you an opinion on it. I'm interested in hearing what your take is. I'm going to leave it up to you to tell me. I'm going to leave it up to you. I ain't going to accuse me of anything. I want to hear from you. Why? Damn it, Will Kane. Somewhere in the building you are. When you come on the air later on today, Michael Kay and Don LaGreca, when you come on the air later, John Ireland, when you come on the air later on, I want somebody to explain to me. If one of us went on the air and said, oh, Osuna deserves a second chance, what would have happened? Well, where's the uproar? Where's the uproar for him? Where's the uproar for the Astros? Where's the uproar for Major League Baseball? Why is it that Major League Baseball seems to get a pass that the NFL and the NBA would never get in this day and age? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Y'all so full of it, you make me sick. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'm not talking about all of you. You know who you are.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it. I would love to tell y'all that I cannot wait until the NFL season begins. But we got to worry about the president speaking about the NFL too. I mean, we just do. NFL season debuts Thursday night, September 6th, by the way. Let's go to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Eddie, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen A., what's up, my man? First-time caller, long-time listener. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. Go ahead.
Stephen A., let me ask you a question. Just give me 1 minute of your time. I just want to make a point. Maybe you'd agree with me, maybe not. But there's a fine timeline with this whole LeBron-Trump thing, that stems back to maybe 2012, 2013. Back in the day, Trump would always applaud LeBron. He would, for instance, like May 11, 2015, he's like, great shot yesterday. LeBron is a tough competitor. Next, he says LeBron is a great player and a great guy. Congratulations to King James on winning Athlete of the Year. So Trump had nothing but incredible things to say about LeBron for the longest time. And then, he gets elected into office, and then this whole I don't want to say war breaks out, but, these guys have their differences. LeBron speaks his mind. He comes out, pretty much is very opposed to Trump being president or whatever, and he starts to get the NBA, to go against, the Trump. And now,
how did he get the NBA to go against Trump?
He when Golden State won the championship, he made it clear that none of these guys are, want to go. He got Steph Curry involved.
You know what part I think you're missing?
What's that?
LeBron showed up in Ohio for a Jay-Z Beyonce concert to endorse Hillary Rodham Clinton during the campaign.
Well, okay, that's one thing I understand. So LeBron.
I'm just saying the other thing that would be far more significant than the other things you brought up. Is my point. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but I just want to say something. So fine, that's okay. Trump is very pro-Hillary. I have no problems with that. But once LeBron starts to pretty much smack talk about, once LeBron starts to talk bad about LeBron starts to talk bad about Trump, saying, he's a bum, all that stuff. And now that Trump says one thing, the world is against Trump. You know what I mean? It's a two-way street. One hand washes the other, and they both wash their face.
That's where you and I disagree. I appreciate the call, because even though your point is valid in terms of one saying one and you're responding to it, essentially what you're saying is you're not holding the president to a higher standard, which is my point about holding. So you going to elevate athletes to that standard, or you going to lower the president to the standard that you believe an athlete should have? Either way you slice it, it's wrong. The president of the United States, the president of any nation, should be held to a higher standard because they're the leaders of the people, whether we like it or not. Hour number 2 up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Now, hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with you as I love to be every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up is always just 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I'll get to the calls in just a minute. Just a couple of items I needed to touch on. First things first was the New York Yankees. It's over. New York Yankees are not winning the American League East. And I can't even express to you how much that depresses me at this particular moment in time. To be 9.5 games back of the Boston Celtics, it cannot measure my level of disgust. It cannot measure my level of disgust. It truly cannot. Last night, 3-run after getting shellacked first 3 games. Game 1 up 4-0 and then lose 15-7. Game 3 shut down. Game 2 shut down. And then game 4 of this series in Boston at Fenway Park, where no run is ever safe. They're up 4-1 in the 9th. And I knew when Aroldis Chapman had the bases loaded, J.D. Martinez was going to get a hit. I knew it. I absolutely positively knew it. They were going to get a hit. But then make matters worse. Not only were they going to get a hit, but then Ojuna's got, Andujar rather, grounded at third. All he's got to do is step up and make a solid throw to Bird at first base. Can't do it. One hops it. Bird can't handle it. Tying run comes in because the run is safe. Beats the throw. Didn't beat it, but he bobbled it. It was an error. And then obviously, you saw what happened. Before I get to some other items, the one and only Karl Ravech is on the line with me right now. He's spoken. He does a lot. What's going on, Karl Ravech? How you doing, buddy?
Come on in, brother. I'll be your doctor. Let's get on the couch.
Help a brother out, Karl. I mean, you gotta, listen, first of all, before I even get into my inquiry, are you like Tim Kirkjian? Are you like Buster Olney? Are you going to enjoy laughing at me because you know I'm a diehard Yankee fan and this stuff just rakes my soul? Is that what you're going to do to me, Karl Ravech?
Never in public would I do that. Come on, Stephen A. I love you too much to be taking joy in your misery. No chance.
Karl Ravech,
that's going to happen.
Karl Ravech, 4-game sweep. Are the Red Sox just this good, or is it about Sanchez and Judge being out? What is it?
It's about both. I mean, the Red Sox right now are that good. Last night, if Aaron Boone stepped into an elevator and he had two choices to press floor 1 or 2, and he thought his room was on 2, he would have hit 1. Alex Cora gets in an elevator with 70 floors. It didn't matter with a blindfold. Whatever button he pressed, that would be where his room was. That's where the Red Sox are right now. Rick Porcello looked like Cy Young. Nathan Eovaldi's looked like Curt Schilling in the postseason. Look, this is all magnified. You know that better than anybody when you are dealing with the Red Sox and Yankees in the rivalry. And Boone, as a player, knows it better than anybody, given what he did against them in 2003 in the postseason. He doesn't read any of this stuff. He's not listening to Stephen A. He's not watching Get Up. He understands that in a baseball season, you go through ups and downs. And he looks around that clubhouse and he sees great players, 2 of whom are hurt. Pitchers haven't been good. They ran into a buzzsaw. Timing couldn't be worse. And now they're about to deal with the Chicago White Sox, the Texas Rangers, and the New York Mets. And then after that, they deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, the Marlins, the Orioles, the White Sox, and the Tigers. They're going to get very, very well very, very quickly.
We're talking to Karl Ravech right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. By the way, Karl Ravech is doing the night's game, Yankees, White Sox, tonight on ESPN at 8 p.m. It's not doing Sunday night. I know A-Rod and Jessica and the crew do that. But I was just watching them last night. I got caught up. Karl Ravech, I got to say this to you. I looked at this game last night. You got a 4-1 lead in the ninth inning. I know Aroldis Chapman is big time. But it's just something missing, man. You remember the day? I mean, you just look at certain guys. I guess we're spoiled by Mariano Rivera or whatever. A guy comes in and you just knew it's lights out. I don't get that impression with Aroldis Chapman. Is there something missing from him now that was there in years past?
Well, J.D. Martinez may have said it best. He said, it used to be when Aroldis Chapman came into the game, he was throwing 102 miles an hour and no one else in baseball did it. Now, so many other people are doing it that the intimidation factor from Aroldis Chapman is gone. So that's one. I think when the Yankees went out and got Zach Britton, I said on our trade deadline special that the Yankees will at some point have Zach Britton closing games, meaning there'll be a decision Aaron's going to make where he says, you know what, I'm going to have Britton close this game, and not because it comes on the heels of Chapman throwing 30-plus pitches. At some point, there's going to be a level of comfort with Zach Britton that, you know what, we're going to have a little closer controversy here, and we're going to have Zach Britton. I think that's going to happen at some point during this season or postseason. They were 58-0 and leading after 8 innings. Think about this series this way, Stephen A. If Jay Happ isn't quarantined with hand, foot, and mouth, he starts in the game that Adams starts. He's got great numbers against the Red Sox. Could have won that game. Craig Kimbrell was as shaky as Chapman was, and yet he got off the hook, but there was nothing that would inspire great confidence in watching Craig Kimbrell blow a big lead as well. So as bad as a 4-game sweep feels, to me there were encouraging signs from Severino and from some other. Oh, God. The way he was pitching compared to what he did after the first inning, that was a step in the right direction for Severino. I think there were some positives to take out of it.
But Carl, you know what bothers me about this? It's a 9.5-game lead. As I tried to explain to my man Max Kellerman this morning, because he's so caught up, he's not objective when it comes to the Yankees. Neither of us are, but at least, damn it, I'm rational. 9.5-game lead. Guess what? Outside of the 3-game series the Yankees have against the Red Sox at the end of the season, how you gonna make up the other 6 games? Because the Red Sox ain't gonna be losing.
They got 6 against the Red Sox still. They got 3 at home, then 3 again at the end of the season. How they're going to make it up? They have to win, 80% of their games, which is doubtful. I'm not saying they're going to make it up, but the Red Sox still have to play Houston. The Red Sox still have to play the Indians. The toughest part of the Yankee schedule is over. Their next 27, Stephen, they conceivably should win 22 of them. They really should. The Red Sox are in a position where they could play 500 ball, and it would be difficult to catch them. That's the beauty of a 9.5-game lead, but it's not something that can't be done. And look, as they all know, and we all know from wild card games, get in. Just get in, babe, and let's see what happens after we're in the wild card.
That's exactly where I was going, Karl Ravech, because this wild card scenario, I don't like it one bit because it's just one game. I don't know when that's what's driving me crazy about this. Listen, man, you can have a bad day. You can have a stomach virus, for crying out loud. It could be anything for one game. One game, Karl, is all that it's going to require.
That's the beauty of the wild card. You got to be punished for finishing second. I like it only because there's a punishment in being a wild card team versus the team that wins the division. I don't mind it, and you get the home field if you have the best record of the two. So I don't mind it. There's got to be some punishment involved. And Stephen A., if the Red Sox had just gotten swept, what would you say to Red Sox Nation if they were trailing by 9.5?
Well, I would laugh at them.
I would laugh at them.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I'd laugh at them because I'd be enjoying their misery because I'm a native New Yorker who roots against them, Karl Ravech. It's just that simple for me. And we're talking to the great Karl Ravech right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. But, Karl, I can't believe this is almost blasphemy coming out of your mouth. 162 game schedule, and you're perfectly all right. I can see a best 2 or 3 or a best 3 or 5, but you're saying one game, you have no problem with a one-game wild card spot? That's it?
Here's what I would do. I don't mind the one game. I do think that the next series, the division series, should be 7 games because I do think that while you're getting penalized for being in a wild card, you're getting doubly penalized because then you're going into a 5-game set and you generally won't have your ace. Mm-hmm. I do think that the division series should be 7 games, which would allow the wild card winning team to, I think, have a fairer fight. But we've seen wild card teams, Stephen A., go on to win World Series. Mm-hmm. It's not as if it can't happen. I do think that the division series should be extended to 7 games, and we should reduce the regular season to 154 to make that all happen and fit. That's what I would do. I think it's too penal to go division series 5 games after wild card, but I do like a one-game wild card.
I like that, Karl. I like that a lot. A couple more questions before I get you on out of here. Anybody can compete with the Houston Astros because to me, I understand Boston's formidable. The Yankees can't be summarily dismissed. We can't ignore that. But in the same breath, when you look at Houston's rotation and the fact that they're the reigning defending World Series champions and they're still there. I don't care about Oakland. I don't care about Seattle. I don't care about all of this stuff, even though Oakland's not a team in baseball. I can't see anybody beating Houston. To that you say what?
When they're healthy. I think they got problems. I think this Springer thing is going to be big. I think McCullers' elbow, and he goes to the bullpen, and is a huge part of that. It's a big deal. I think the fact that Correa and Altuve are both banged up, and Altuve went back to Houston. And look, I can tell you that the last 2 years, they've had tremendous chemistry in that clubhouse, Stephen A. And this Osuna situation is something that you got to keep your eye on.
Why?
Because these players, as much as they say we're going to have him in the clubhouse. No one has come out and said we're welcoming him. We certainly don't condone what the heck what he did. And if more comes out about this in a court case or anywhere else, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't end up pitching for the Astros, which means they would still have a closer problem. They don't have one. They got rid of one problem and created another by getting Giles out of there. Let's see where this goes in the next couple of weeks with Osuna and the Astros. But I think they're beatable, sure.
Karl, do you think enough noise has been made about Osuna publicly? Clearly, the Astros took the position that they took in bringing him on board, but he did serve a 75-game suspension. I'm thinking from a Joe Public perspective or a Susie Public perspective, I expected more noise to be made against this man because of the issue of domestic violence. Are you satisfied with the noise? I think within
the clubhouse, they're making a ton of noise. I thought it was really interesting. Their manager yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically A.J. Hinch came out and said, look, we've never dealt with this. We don't know how to deal with it. We're going to try to deal with it. And we will make adjustments based on things that may or may not come out. To me, that's an open door to if something else were to surface, he's not going to be a member of this team. And look, the curse of baseball and its criticisms come from the fact that it's not the NFL and it's not the NBA in the way that it's marketed or sold or reported on. If this was an NBA story or an NFL story, it would be huge news and it would be covered greatly. It's Major League Baseball. It is in a sense, given the way that this sport is reported on, in line with all the good and the bad. It doesn't get the attention that the other sports get. And the fact that Major League Baseball saw enough to give the guy a 75-game suspension, that's enormous. That was a major statement by a major sport. You give a dude 75 games, you know something bad happened. You don't do that unless you have concrete evidence. And they gave him a 75-game suspension. So they did their job. It was a big deal, but it was reported on the level that Major League Baseball gets reported on and covered.
Got you. Karl Ravech, before I let you get on out of here, let me transition back to the field to play National League. Dodgers, the team to beat. They're tied with Arizona, but you still think the National League is theirs to lose?
I think the way that they're playing, I think Kershaw obviously is a huge factor. You get Kershaw back there, they are the team to beat out there. Arizona's been really, really good, but those are the two teams there. I don't think, and I was one of those that had the Nationals in the World Series. I don't think, Stephen A., that team is going to be able to flip a switch and take off in spite of the youth of the Phillies and the youth of the Braves. And I certainly have circled the Phillies, given how good Aaron Nola was. It has been, and his performance at Fenway Park last week when they played them. You throw him in there with Arrieta, you have something there, given the athleticism of that team and Rhys Hoskins in the middle. I'd keep an eye on Philadelphia, and who knows? Maybe Adam Jones, come non-waiver trade deadline, says, I am going to go. I'm going to go try to win a World Series with Philadelphia, and I'll leave Baltimore for that. Let's see.
Karl Ravech, always appreciate the great work, man. Keep it coming, man. Thank you so much. I know you'll be calling the game tonight with Eduardo Perez, Yankees, White Sox tonight on ESPN at 8 p.m. Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate you, man.
You got it, Steve.
All right. One and only Karl Ravech, my colleague here at ESPN, calling that game tonight, Yankees, White Sox. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, I promise I'll get into Urban Meyer, and I will in just a few minutes. But let me go back to the calls. Let me go to my man Carlton in Tampa. It's been a while. What's up, buddy? Always great to hear from you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, buddy.
You may not like me today.
Don't worry about it. We understand. I know you're going to get on me. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
You know I'm no Trump fan. I didn't vote for him in the election, and I'm not a fan of him.
Okay.
But you made a statement today on First Take, which is 100% correct, and that's that assuming that Trump is not bright is a major league mistake of these left-wing social justice warriors.
Okay.
And Trump continues to give the left-wing social justice warriors like Max and Molly all the rope they need to hang themselves, and they hang themselves over and over and over again. So let's count the times on today's First Take show that Max and Molly played the race card nonsense, okay? T.O., his exclusion from the Hall of Fame had racist overtones, even though we know that a lot of African-American coaches and players had major league problems with T.O. Okay? So even though we know that...
I'm not sure that's accurate. I don't recall Max doing that. I specifically recall Max bringing up Randy Moss and saying if it was a race issue, then how come it didn't affect Randy Moss? So he was asking the question. I don't think that's what he did.
I think you need to go back and watch that segment again. I seem to remember you kind of bringing up the Randy Moss thing. Anyway, then we moved on to, and it was just a passing reference, but that the Redskins' name is somehow racist, even though we know that in two major studies separated by years apart, 90% of Native Americans actually look with pride on that name. But somehow that's also racist. Then Molly was incensed that, why isn't there more attention on Roberto Osuna? Because if he was in the NBA or the NFL and he was African American, we'd be ripping him a new one. Does Molly actually know that Roberto Osuna is Mexican? Does she actually even know that?
Well, wasn't that me? I mean, I didn't bring up the Mexican descent, but I did bring up the fact that if it was an NFL or an NBA player, it would have definitely gotten more attention, because my issue is that Major League Baseball on far too many occasions as an institution, because it's America's national pastime, is treated differently than the sports in National Football League and the NBA. That was my position. I know that much.
I'll suggest that one of the reasons it's not a higher profile item in the left-wing sports media is because he's Mexican. Okay. And therefore, they don't want to go after a minority, unlike Zach Smith, who they're fully fine with ripping 15 ways to Sunday, okay? But then finally, what really frosted my cake today, okay, is Max saying he would not sit down with Trump because he operates in bad faith. For the umpteenth time today.
He did say that.
For the umpteenth time today,
right.
Max, who's a bright guy from Colombia, alluded to convictions of Donald Trump's campaign staff for Russian collusion. Not one single member of Donald Trump's campaign staff or any of his administration has ever been charged, let alone be convicted of anything to do with Russian collusion. And Max knows that, and he has repeated 50 times on your program over the last 18 months that Trump campaign people, were involved with Russian collusion and were convicted of it. It just makes me sick. Max is the one who operates with bad faith all the time about that because he knows he's spewing falsehoods, and he does it over and over over again.
I'm not going to accuse him of that. I think that Max is emotional and has strong beliefs about this administration as president, and to some degree his ideology, and he believes that. I certainly am not going to accuse Max of lying. If you want to say that he's misinformed about something,
no, he knows exactly what he's doing. But you're right. Everything in his life is colored by this racial oppression, viewpoint or everything. He can't see straight to save his life. And I want to ask you a final question. Why is it that Colin Kaepernick, who was fully willing to throw Ray Lewis, a now Hall of Famer, who was trying to help him get a job with the Ravens, under the bus, call him an Uncle Tom, is celebrated by left-wing loons like Max, and yet Dak Prescott, who just believes that we should not inject all of this divisive political nonsense onto the football field, that we should figure out ways to come together and do good by minority communities and everybody else off the football field. He's castigated. Dak Prescott is considered, persona non grata in the liberal loon left land.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, Carlton. I just think that because in light of Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones' rhetoric about the national anthem and the National Football League, you didn't want to hear Dak Prescott literally echoing their sentiments without addressing what they said and the effect it could potentially have on his community. I think that's what the wish was. But I certainly wouldn't sit there and say that Dak Prescott is persona non grata and people are castigating him or vilifying him. People disagreed with the fact that he did not speak out and speak up in addressing his owner and the executive VP of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that was the only difference, Carlton.
People forget every time that Colin Kaepernick took the field at home, the home crowd booed him. He turned home field advantage into home field disadvantage.
I got you.
Dak wants his team to be unified and to actually focus on winning football games as opposed to airing everybody's political beliefs, which are all over the map in the locker room.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place. You're right about that. I got to run, Carlton. I appreciate the call as always. Call back anytime. You know that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to Lee in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Lee.
Stephen A., I want to ask you a question. How many presidents have you ever seen at a basketball game other than Obama? For obvious reasons. He's a brother. I mean, this is America's pastime. It should be given the green light to get away with whatever it wants to. It's America's favorite sport, although it has many flaws.
Hold on, tell me. What do you mean it should be given the green light?
People want to believe that Jackie
No. Listen to me. I need you to answer my question, okay? I'm asking you a direct question. What do you mean it should be given a green light? Explain that.
It's America's past. And it's the president of sports. It's the president of sports.
What does that have to do with it being given a green light by the public at large? See, I'm not calling Major League Baseball or politicians or anybody on the carpet. I'm simply saying if we're talking about something is raking through our society like a virus and it needs to be addressed like domestic violence, which is absolutely fair. If you're going to bring rapt attention to it because it's a football player or because it's a basketball player, why not do it in regards to a baseball player? I'm talking about the public. Why would you disagree with that?
Double standards in everything, just not sports. Everything. Life is a double standard.
No. We're talking. No. You're giving me the reality. We're acknowledging the reality. I'm simply saying it's not right.
And I agree. I concur.
Well, that's all I'm saying. I mean, you're definitely right about it's a reality. I'm saying it shouldn't be. That's all I meant by that. I appreciate the call, Oli. Thank you. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, Bill Clinton was at Arkansas Razorback games. Let's not forget that. Okay? So it's not just president showing up to baseball games. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. By the way, Bill Clinton showed up as president to Arkansas Razorback games. He was not the president, but Donald Trump frequently showed up to New York Knicks games. Matter of fact, I saw him at one with Fox's Bill O'Reilly at the time Bill O'Reilly was on the air. He introduced me to Bill O'Reilly thinking I hadn't met Bill O'Reilly. This was about 3-4 years ago. So Donald Trump went to basketball games a lot, just not as president. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Allie's mom knew she had a strong kick even back in the womb. And from then on, Allie was always kicking a ball and saying she was going to play pro soccer. And one day, while she was kicking a ball against a wall, her skills drew even more attention. Her boss said, "Could you please stop that and get me those quarterly numbers I asked for?" Turns out Allie just wasn't that good a talker. But she was a good accountant. That's why she switched to Geico. She knew they could save her a bunch of money on car insurance. And she sure wasn't ever going to make that pro soccer money. No, sir.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
You know, I'm trying to feel enthusiastic about my Yankees, but I'm very worried about Houston. I want a Yankees-Dodgers World Series. Dodgers got me a little bit worried about Arizona, but in the same breath, since they're like 16-20 start, they've got the best record in baseball. A's have the best record since mid-June. After the 4-game sweep at the hands of the Boston Celtics, the Yankees do have this going for them. 24, reading from MLB.com, the great Richard Justice. 24 of the next 27 games are against teams below 500. 18 of the 24 games are at home, where the Yankees have the second best record, 38-16. Only Boston has a better home record, Fenway Park. So we'll see what happens, right? You're the A's, living pretty well right now. Really are. I mean, just think about it. The A's are 21-9 in one-run games this year. And they're baseball's only unbeaten team with the lead after 7 innings. They are 46-0. Chris Davis has 10 home runs and 22 RBIs in the past 14 games. Just the other day, he hit his 31st home run. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Another item I promised to get to was Urban Meyer at Ohio State. According to a statement by Urban Meyer on Twitter, here is the truth. While at the University of Florida and now at the Ohio State University, I have always followed proper reporting protocols and procedures when I have learned of an incident involving a student athlete, coach, or member of our staff by elevating the issues to the proper channels. Meyer said in a statement posted on Twitter. And I did so regarding the Zach Smith incident in 2015. I take that responsibility very seriously, and any suggestion to the contrary is simply false, end quote. Meyer admitted that he did not handle the situation correctly during Big Ten Media Day, saying that his job is to be clear, compassionate, and most of all, completely accurate. Quote, unfortunately, at Big Ten Media Days on July 24th, I failed on many of these fronts. My intention was not to say anything inaccurate or misleading. However, I was not adequately prepared to discuss these sensitive personal issues with the media, and I apologize for the way I handled those questions. First of all, Urban Meyer, it's all right to say you lied. Maybe it would help you. Just sit up there and say like this, listen, I gave it to the proper authorities. I feel no obligation to tell the media the truth. I know it's not the most popular thing to say, but in a particular situation of this magnitude, it might actually help you. It might actually help you. The reality is that Urban Meyer lied to the media. But ladies and gentlemen, that's no crime. And if he reported it up to the proper channels, they might figure out a way to allow him to keep his job because he wasn't the one that committed domestic violence. Now, for those of you who are tempted to compare this to the Jerry Sandusky situation at Penn State with that serial pedophile, be very, very careful. You're talking about the sodomization of kids. Be very, very careful with that comparison. Zach Smith spoke with Dan Murphy. He was being interviewed. Zach Smith is the assistant coach Urban Meyer allegedly or reportedly tried to protect. Here's Zach Smith talking about what Urban Meyer actually knew.
He knew about the 2009 incident, and I think he addressed it already. That he found out, he let the higher ups at Florida kind of figure out what was going on, what was the issue, what happened, and waited for their advice. And after he got their advice, he talked to me. He made a decision that he found out that it wasn't what it was said it was. The charges that got completely dropped, and so he made a decision to just move forward. And he cared about me, cared about Courtney, tried to help a young couple, try to get their marriage on the right track, and that's what he knew about it.
He also talked about what Urban may have on telling Urban what actually happened.
He asked me what the hell is going on. I told him, I said, Courtney's accusing me that I committed domestic violence. I didn't. I don't know what's going on, but I'm meeting with I'm going to go down and meet with the investigator and find out what the deal is. And after that, I told him, I said, they have some pictures of her. Anything that happened to her body was all just defensive movements to remove myself from the situation. And I said, and that's it. And I'm not gonna get charged because I didn't do anything wrong.
Here's the problem. What do you mean you didn't know what the hell was going on? As you elaborated, you clearly knew exactly what the hell was going on. And if indeed it was as simplistic as you fending her off from attacking you physically and beyond, you could have said that. Instead, you said, I don't know what the hell's going on. So there's question marks in Zach Smith's statement. Looks very, very bad. Huge question marks in regards to that. Paul Feinbaum was on Go Looking Wingo this morning, the great Paul Feinbaum, the mouth of the South, saying that in light of these recent revelations, Urban Meyer will most likely stay at Ohio State. Listen to this.
It sounds like the university may have decided Urban is going to stay. We just have to work backwards and figure out how to maneuver and manipulate, because the public, meaning the Ohio State fans, went from just being distraught on Wednesday and Thursday thinking Urban would be gone to, after reading Urban's statement Friday night, saying, you know what, maybe we can figure out a way to save him.
He also talked about how Urban Meyer should expect to be suspended. Listen to this.
It looks like they're finding a way to suspend Urban for a couple of games and let him do this mea culpa, do the sit down with, and I say this because he's my friend, not because I'm insulting him, the sit down with Tom Rinaldi where he cries and Shelley Myers is looking at him and talking about how he's the greatest man she's ever known, and then he does some PR stunt, and I mean stunt, by donating money to someone, and then we all live happily ever after.
There you have it. Urban Meyer wins 90% of his game. He's a two-time national champion at The Ohio State. If there's a way, they can find a way to keep him on board. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going to do it. Plain and simple. By the way, in terms of the Hall of Fame speeches that took place, Randy Moss was great. Ray Lewis was Ray Lewis, a preacher to be. And T.O. made a quick note of why he was skipping Canton, Ohio. We don't need to play that sound. To paraphrase, bottom line is that Terrell Owens basically pointed the finger at the media, not living up to his responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, T.O. is right. However you feel about T.O.'s character in the bylaws or just from an issue of fairness has nothing to do with whether or not he was a Hall of Fame player. T.O. was never in trouble with the law. So essentially what you had was a situation where it was a personality conflict. Some people thought he was a bit too belligerent, too cancerous, too bratty. Did it stop them from bringing him on the team? Did it stop them from putting him on the field? Did it stop him from being statistically one of the top 3 receivers in the history of the National Football League? The answer is no. And because the answer was no, but he was still left off of the ballot, the first and the second ballot, is a disgrace. You have to understand that when you are an athlete or you are somebody that's infatuated with the world of sports, the one thing you stand by is that it's supposed to be the closest thing to a meritocracy this nation has. When you perform on the field of play, it can never be taken from you. That's what we believe. And so by his arrival to the Hall of Fame being delayed, you basically showed that glass ceilings exist in sports too. And that's what makes the media look bad, because the media, 48 media members, are the ones who decide who goes into the Hall of Fame. Not the players that were there in Canton, Ohio waiting for him. I still think one day T.O.'s going to regret it, because those brothers there would have been there to support you and to celebrate your arrival to the Hall of Fame. Ray Lewis even mentioned you. But you didn't take advantage of that. T.O. is not wrong. T.O. is right to feel the way that he feels. I would have said something very similar to what he said if I were him. But I would have did it. I would have done it from the podium in Canton, Ohio, instead of Chattanooga, Tennessee. 888-SAY-ESPN. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! I don't mean to harp on this before I get back to the calls to close out the show. But if you remember, Mr. Brian Cashman, general manager for the Yankees, he missed out on Cliff Lee a couple of years ago. Last year it was Justin Verlander and Jarrett Cole. Y'all forgot about that. I forgot about that. Okay? And this year, DeGrom couldn't get him. Aaron Boone is a rookie. He's a rookie manager that's got one of the best records in baseball. I've got no problem with Aaron Boone. Brian Cashman, the one who instigated the exodus for Joe Girardi, that would be a different matter altogether. But I'll venture into that a little bit later, probably tomorrow or something like that. I just want to make sure everybody knew I knew. Anyway. Dan, talk to me. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A.
Go ahead, man.
Hey, Stephen A. Thank you for taking my call. First-time caller.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, real quick.
I heard what you said earlier today on First Take about Mr. Trump saying or tweeting stuff to kind of distract us from what's really going on.
Okay.
So the fact that we talk about what he said on a sports TV or sports radio network, aren't we kind of playing into his hands?
I don't subscribe to that theory. He's the president of the United States. You're going to talk about the president of the United States. I don't care who you are. You're going to talk about the president of the United States because their actions, their attitude directly affects our lives. It's just a given.
But okay, I hear what you're saying,
I'm not denying that you're right. I'm saying it can't be helped when you're the president. If there's anybody else that applies, that thinking applies, not when you're the president.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Chris in Brooklyn real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Yo, what's up, Stephen A. Smith, first-time caller.
Thank you.
I had talk about my man LeBron James. I give him a lot of respect and a lot of love for doing that for the kids in school because I grew up in Brooklyn, and they're squeezing all these kids into one school. You got junior high schools and high schools, and here's a guy who takes $40 million of his own money to open up schools, and then you got the president of the United States who's supposed to be a role model for all kinds of people who walk of life because he has the number one job in the world, and he's over here criticizing and talking down to people. And I love my man, Don Lemon. I watch him every night. He starts at 10 o'clock on CNN, and I just think that he needs to focus his attention on other things that matter instead of criticizing people on his Twitter.
I appreciate your call, but he ain't going to do that. So that's neither here nor there. Jeff in Indiana, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, Stephen A. Thanks for taking my call.
You only got 45 seconds, buddy. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Basically, just wanted to say Donald Trump is using hatred to get votes. He's not a stupid man. He said what he did about LeBron because he knew it would anger his voters. I live in the Lion's Den, so I know all about these people. But they
be careful about that. You be careful about
that.
I'm
sorry.
When you say these people, you don't want them saying that about you. So you don't want to do that about that. But I gotta go.
I welcome it. But thank you, Stephen.
All right, I appreciate it. Let's just be careful about that. Let's be careful about that. Let's be fair. Let's exude and display the fairness.